Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Kim and Josh telling spooky stories. In this series that we do, we basically just scour the internet for weird and scary stories that are supposedly true and tell them. We also we are trying to find people that actually send us these stories directly. So if you have a story you want to be read for the podcast / the YouTube channel, make sure you submit it to us. You can give it in the comments. You can also, I always put the links to all of our social media in the description of the video. So you can go to Facebook. You can do the Spirit Light Facebook and just give us a direct message there, or leave in the comment a link to, whatever you want us to read your story.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be supernatural. It can just be as long as it's a scary story. It doesn't really have a length. If it gets real long, we probably won't read it, but long as it's like a doable length, like no more than a couple pages, then we, shouldn't have a problem reading it. We just adjust the episode basically based on like how long the stories are. So like if 2 long stories, like 3 short stories, vice versa, whatever. But yeah, I think that's basically it. And again, this is going to be in both podcast form. The name of the podcast is Creeps, Creatures, and Haunts, Oh My. And it should be on basically all of your major podcast things, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google, all of that stuff. So search for that there. And if you're listening to the podcast form, it is also on YouTube, which is Spirit Light Productions. And the links for all of these things will be in the podcast description or the video description. And hopefully you guys enjoy the episode.
So the first story I'm going to read is actually kind of like, I don't even know how to describe it, just kind of awful. Just awful human beings that, yeah.
I like awful.
So, the Radium Girls were female factory workers who contracted radium poisoning from painting watches using luminous paint in the early 1800s. In these facilities, women were told the paint was harmless and were instructed to point their brushes using their mouths to give them a finer tip. As a result of this, many of the women began to suffer from anemia, bone fractures, and necrosis of the jaw. Yeah. Apparently that's known as radium jaw now.
Why didn't we find out that this was a thing you shouldn't be putting in your mouth? Like, I mean, okay, even if we didn't know it was that bad, like, should we really just be putting chemicals in our mouth, like, anytime? Like...
Well, no, don't put chemicals in your mouth.
Yeah.
In one case, a woman named Frances Spletcher died of radium poisoning after an agonizing illness. She developed anemia. Her bones began to hurt. When she went to the dentist because her teeth were hurting as well, she had a tooth removed and part of her jaw came off. Her mouth then rotted until she had a hole in her cheek.
Okay.
My God.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Like...
Well, I also heard, I do remember hearing something about, apparently these girls also glowed in the dark from this stuff too.
Probably like a light luminescence.
Yeah, because
like
the radium being
avatar.
in their blood. Yeah. Yeah, they're avatars. Yeah. Whatever.
Can you imagine? Wow, that's awful.
Radium poisoning. Ew. Oh my gosh. I don't even know. Whew. Okay. So.
Yeah. Just don't do that.
Don't
That's not
do that.
fun. That's not good.
Yeah.
Unless you want to glow, then go. Just drink some. It'll be all right.
You don't want a mouth.
Yeah, I mean, if you really want to glow, yeah, but you just pay with losing a jaw or teeth or whatever.
Oh my gosh. Oh, okay. So the other one I'm gonna read is I actually printed it out old school. This is, I don't know who this is. I just found this on the web. So if it's yours, please let us know. I just found it and thought it was a pretty awful story, so. A few years back, I rented an apartment from a friend of mine. He had recently bought it and had it completely renovated. He put it up for sale, but couldn't find a buyer, so I offered to rent it in the meantime. After moving in, I realized there was something wrong with the lady next door. She was about 45 but looked much older. She would sit up all night listening to Christian radio shows and talking loudly to someone. It got to the point that I couldn't sleep, so I went over to her place and asked her to keep it down. She opened her door and I got a quick peek. Her walls all had crosses painted on them in different colors, and the words Jesus and angels scribbled everywhere. The windows were painted black, letting no light in at all. It was damp, yellow-stained, 50-year-old carpets, dog shit, and cockroaches everywhere. No dog, though.
Oh, what? What? How's that? Was she finding it?
Wait, just wait, just wait. I asked her to please keep it down. She just looked at me and shut the door. Then she turned up the radio even louder. The next night, I had my girlfriend staying with me. I wake up in the middle of the night and see a shadow of a person next to the bed looking at us sleeping. I think I'm hallucinating, as I usually do in the dark when I'm sleeping. That's a whole other issue, but okay. But then the shadow starts talking. It's my neighbor, and she's holding something in her hand. She broke in during the night, and who knows how long she's been standing there. You should lock your door at night, she says, and walks out. The next morning, I hear someone making strange noises below my bedroom window. It's my neighbor talking to herself in tongues. She has a plastic bag in her hand with her rotting dead dog inside. There's a dog. It's hot as hell outside and I can smell death from the bag. Duh. At this point, I'm scared shitless. She's obviously very insane. I go upstairs and knock on another person's door and ask, what the hell is going on? The guy is as scared as me. Apparently, she broke into his apartment one evening as well, while he was watching TV with his kids. He got up from the couch to get a snack, only to find her behind the couch, staring at him, holding a power drill. He said now he knows what she was holding in her hand. He was in her apartment, in his apartment. At this stage, I'm basically pooping myself. The actual pooping myself. I called the cops, and they knew all about her. Apparently, she is a violent schizophrenic and hasn't been taking her meds. But they can't force her or enter her apartment without her permission because she owns it. The only thing they can do is get her when she goes outside. I sit up for the next 2 days waiting for her to run out of cigarettes. When I hear her leave at 2 a.m. to go across the road to the 7-Eleven, I call the cops. When I heard... They have 3 cars and a special van over in less than 2 minutes. They restrain her and throw her in the van and drive off to some institution, and in less than a minute, it's like she was never there. I never see her again. Still have nightmares about her looking at me in my sleep.
Gotta love your neighbors.
Oh,
Just
gosh.
good, though. What a fun lady. Like, go play bingo with her. Like, what? I don't... Why did she ever do that? What the hell?
I don't know. Like,
I mean, I guess she's just crazy. So it's kind of like...
pretty much, yeah.
I mean,
Just-
there's really no question you could ask that would be like a sensible answer to. I mean, that's... If you're insane, I suppose. But, like... Oh, want to see Fluffy? Yeah, he's been in his bag for like a year. I'm like, what on earth? And the fact that, how long has the dog's been dead? There's been this dog crap all around. And it's like, oh,
right?
the dog's in a bag dead. She's just like...
Uh-huh. Yeah, like... Oh.
Yeah, I don't know. That's fun. One more story for us then.
All right. So, mine is actually from Abraham Lincoln.
Oh.
I know. If you're not familiar, Abraham Lincoln was very much into the occult and supernatural. His wife, Mary Todd Lincoln, actually tried to contact him numerous times after he passed and everything like that. She was big into it.
Just all around a pretty cool guy.
Yeah. Shortly before he was shot dead, Abraham Lincoln told several members of his cabinet and his wife about a dream he had. In the dream, Lincoln saw a soldier standing beside a casket and could also hear people crying. Still dreaming, Lincoln asked the soldier, "Who is dead in the White House?" The soldier turned to him and replied, "The president."
Oh, that's it?
That's it.
Oh, that's a short little one. Yeah, that's a short little one. And this is something that Abraham Lincoln noted himself, you said?
Yes.
Huh.
Yeah. And he is known to actually haunt the White House as well.
Oh, is he?
Oh yeah, people see him. Well, there's a bedroom known as the Lincoln bedroom, and little short story for you there. People see him putting his boots on, like sitting on the bed, putting his boots on a lot, and they see him walking around the White House all the time too, and things like
Do you
that.
think they'll let us investigate there?
No, that would be awesome.
Another episode of Haunted Adventures at the White House? Maybe the first. Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
They probably, yeah, for sure.
The Hangry Orange hasn't like destroyed it.
He'd be our best bet to get in.
Just bribe him with hamburgers.
Oh my god, just show up with like a whole bunch of McDonald's for
Big
him.
Macs.
Like, hey, want some Big Macs?
Oh gosh.
Well, listen. I think we found the secret to breaching his security. We just
McDonald's.
bring in McDonald's. I mean, I can't fault it. I like McDonald's. I'd like some McDonald's. Someone's like, hey, I'll give you this Big Mac. They'll be like, go sign your place. They'll be like, all right, just please don't steal my documents.
He'd want to be there. He'd want to help.
That's fine.
Which
I mean, just
probably
imagine. Let's take a minute. That'd be amazing.
that would be
Ghost hunting with President Trump.
That would be kind of
That'd be
fun.
amazing. I mean, like every other in between UVP session, he'd be telling you about how election fraud. But still, that'd be great.
That would be fun.
That'd be some quality content. Man, Ghost Adventures. If you're listening, Zach Bagans,
Do
you should
it.
Do that.
Totally do it.
I feel like he's charming. Trump might let him in.
Maybe. You never know.
Okay. Oh God.
Okay.
All right. I have 3 as well.
Yay.
Yep. So I guess I will. And I don't really remember them too well. So this will be fun. So the first one was posted by BYU Cult Has Seen Some Stuff. And he titled it, "Help Me, I'm Lost." I was living in a rural area in Oklahoma with my mother at a small lake house. I'm probably 10 to 11 at the time. One night I'm sleeping in my room when I randomly and abruptly wake up for no reason. This was not normal for me and I felt very uneasy. The only sound I could hear was my mother snoring in the next room on the couch. I rolled over and tried to go back to sleep, but my urge to use the bathroom was growing more urgent, so I grudgingly forced myself to head that way. The bathroom was on the other side of the house, around a corner and past the kitchen, and finally down a long hallway on the right. So after I made the trip and finished my business, I flipped off the light switch and started heading back to bed. That's when I heard the distant click of the light switch, and I saw the glow of the bathroom light in the hallway. Terrified, I slowly turned around to witness the light in the bathroom start clicking on and off. Click, 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 click. Finally, it shut completely off. In the dark of the hallway, my eyes began to make out a white shape near the end of the hall. It was around my size and crouched to the floor. At this point, I'm frozen to the spot as my mind begins realizing that no one else is home except for my mom and myself. Then the white shape began whispering in a quiet man's voice, "Help me, I'm lost." I remember wanting to scream for my mom, but I couldn't, and instead, I barely said no. Before this thing starts running at me on what sounded like all fours. I quickly ran through the kitchen and around the corner before running to my sleeping mother, shaking her awake. I remember saying, "It's coming, it's coming," and my mother's eyes going from dazed to alert. In an instant, she asked me what was going on, and I saw her eyes look over my shoulder before she screamed. Remembering her scream still makes my blood run cold. Never had I heard pure terror like that in my life, even to this day. She grabs me by the arms and pulls me into my room and slams the door. She holds me in her arms with her back pressed against the door as we listen. It sounded like this thing was running around in circles in the kitchen. We could hear hands and feet slapping against the tile. The kitchen had a sliding glass door to the outside, which sounded like it was thrown open then slammed. We sat there horrified until daybreak. I was sent to my grandmother's in the next town for a while after that, and never set foot inside that house again. Years later, my mother said she went walking around the property after the incident and came across a small burial site with 3 headstones, each of which belonged to children from the early 1900s. It freaks me out because what I heard that night was a man's voice, but it was so unnatural. My mom still will not tell me what she saw behind me and what it was that made her scream. She tells me she's afraid it will know we're talking about it and it'll come back. This is the first of many weird things that have happened in my life. So, yeah. I like a lot of people that like the right stories, like there's this like common thing where they don't like to talk about it because they're scared it's gonna like bring whatever happened like back. So yeah, I mean, who knows if it was actually like a spirit or if it was just some kind of deranged psycho in the house. They mentioned about the 3 headstones that belonged to children.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, so who knows if it was that or not, but he also says that it was a man's voice, you know, that talked.
Right. And the light switch going on and off, though, like, there would have had to have been somebody, like, in that room with him if it was a person.
Right. Well, that's what he sees, yeah, doing this person that was in the bathroom, and then he basically ran to them, yeah.
That's creepy.
Alright, the next one I have is by, I'm not sure how you would pronounce this username, but it's from Reddit. It's RVYNEZK, or Vidazek, I don't know. And it's titled, "You May See Them Too." I'm 25, female. I've been a caregiver for 6 years now. I've worked in a few different places, retrained and reintroduced to many residents. The first CBRF I ever worked at was a 13-bed facility. I'm not sure what does CBRF stand for. It's like some kind of like caregiving facility. Yeah. Yeah, she doesn't actually say what the abbreviation stands for.
Rehab something, probably.
Yeah. It's like a nursing home is what she's working at. A CBRF takes in more than just geriatrics who can no longer live alone. It handles anywhere from addicts to dementia to old age. In order to become a DSP, you have to go through about 4 weeks of training. Direct support professional goes through basic first aid, administrating medications, basic fire safety, and dementia support classes. All the training classes never quite prepare you for being on the floor. During dementia training, they taught us about dementia with Lewy bodies. Okay, it's a degenerative disease that causes auditory and visual hallucinations. We ran through different scenarios on how to redirect a resident while they're having these episodes. One example was of the residents chasing after their past loved ones. Often they wandered away from the home and end up lost. We had to stay vigilant in order to keep them safe. The main thing was we were never to discredit them or their hallucinations. we were taught to play along and redirect. Telling them, no, it's made up or no one is there, can cause them to fly into a violent rage or break down into inconsolable tears. When I first started on the floor, I met one of the first dementia patients right away. Her name was Beverly. My first interaction with her was coming up behind me and whispering, "You better take care of them or I'll have to kill you." Which, what a great first impression.
Lovely.
Yeah,
nice to meet you, Beverly.
Yeah, she then pointed to the floor as if someone was standing there. I nervously laughed and ran to the administrator's office. She explained to me that Beverly was harmless, but she often saw children. She reminded me of my training and to play along, but then added, "You may see them too."
Oh.
I continued working there for a few months without much of any incident. I worked the second shift, so there were as many uncomfortable nights. While vacuuming the hallways, I heard the door alarms go off. Every time someone opened one of the main doors from outside, an alarm would ring. I looked out the window to see Beverly in nothing but a nightgown in the middle of a Wisconsin winter. She was bent over at waist, walking slowly as if a small child were holding her hand and leading her down the parking lot. I quickly ran outside to catch up with her and tried to consult her. She was confused when she saw me and asked me where the little girl went. I explained to her that her mom came to pick her up and quickly brought her back inside. A few weeks later, some of the other staff were talking between shift change, and I overheard them talking about Beverly's little girl. Turned out I wasn't the only one that had seen Beverly have an episode, but then they went on to talk about the daycare next door. I hadn't been working there for long, so one of the veteran DSPs went on to explain about the original daycare that used to be in the new one's place. I guess it burned down and some of the kids got hurt. The veteran DSP wondered if there was any correlation between what Beverly was seeing and the old daycare.
Duh.
The rest of the group of the DSP went on to talk about some weird sightings they had seen in our building, always catching glimpses of someone short out of the corner of their eye, things gone missing, or even being misplaced. We had even seen a resident waking up screaming in the middle of the night, saying he saw a woman on the ceiling staring at him. What a fun place this must be. When I started my night shift that night, I was left with one of the veteran DSPs. All of the other DSPs had left for the night. I stayed in the kitchen cleaning up after Dave's shift while the vet was passing out meds. I heard the back door open and ran to the windows in the back hallway to look. It was Beverly. It was snowing really hard that night, so it was hard to see out, but she was in her bent-over stance, being led by something again. This time I saw another person with her, actually holding onto her hand, a little girl with blonde hair. I yelled for the vet, and we both ran outside to look for Beverly. We looked all around the building and found nothing. The vet asked if I was sure what I saw, and I swore that I had seen Beverly. I even heard the door alarm go off again. The vet suggested we go back inside and check if maybe she got back in without us noticing. When we got in her room, we both had the air escape us. We found Beverly dead on the floor. I won't go into much detail of how she looked, but it still haunts me to this day. She was holding on to a photo. It was a picture of her daughter when she was little, and her daughter had long blonde hair.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, that's the end of that one. See, I found that one kind of creepy, so.
That's really cool.
Yeah,
Basically, the little girl was taking her away.
yeah, exactly. Like they were kind of like walking off together. And there's like, it's kind of funny too, like, because at the beginning of the story, she kind of talks about how Beverly has, and she said, about Beverly having a kid or whatever, but then they also talked about could be the daycare. Sounds like there's a whole bunch of crap just going on in this nursing home.
Yeah.
Or this
when
place.
my
It's not more just nursing home.
when my grandparents and my aunt were in a nursing home, they a lot of times talked about well, my aunt particularly. My aunt was very of mind. The reason she was there was for another medical reason, but she knew that in like the dementia part of the nursing home, there were ghosts in this part of the nursing home, because a lot of these dementia patients, when they pass away, they don't realize that they're dead, and so they continue going on their daily lives and stuff like that, not realizing that they had passed. And actually my aunt's former roommate actually stayed around for a while after she passed away.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and she eventually left when another patient passed away. The activity stopped because what we think is, and my aunt was very big into the supernatural. She actually was a channeler and all this other fun stuff. But what we figured out was that the other patient, when she passed away, took this dementia patient with her when she crossed over. Because she realized, she doesn't belong still staying here. So she took her to the other side.
So
which I think is kind of sweet, But, they always knew that people, like, a lot of patients were still around in the dementia area because of that reason. And, the doors and everything like that was always an issue. Of the doors opening and stuff.
Yeah, I know. I've been in those a few times. Yeah, and they always, the alarms go off. There's something, if you've never been into one of those, been fortunate enough to never been into like a place like that. It's just eerie in general.
It's very eerie.
Especially some of the people that are not fully there and stuff anymore, like how they act and stuff. It's just like it really kind of gives you a different outlook on things to see someone that their mind is just basically degraded to such a way, and it's a really sad and just disturbing thing. But that's something else. Also make sure, I'm going to get into my last story here, make sure you're following us, because eventually we are going to do more than just scary stories. We're going to talk about, have discussions on, more in depth, I guess you would say, about like paranormal and just creepy stuff in general. Just overall topics. So this next story I'm going to say has actually been submitted to us by someone named TJ Martin. Now, he actually works at a haunted house. I haven't read this yet, but anyway, he works at a haunted house. This is a creepy experience, basically, he has had. And this was sent to us via Facebook. This was my first season at our haunt. It was Friday the 13th. Only 13 actors were working the whole haunt. I was told I would be the only actor stationed on our side to play the redneck/cannibal. So it's like a redneck cannibal scene. I'm Tiny the Butcher normally. As I was walking through the scenes at sunset, just before we opened, I saw a quick glimpse of something that was standing about 5 feet from me. It was shaped and looked like me. 6'4", 400 pounds. So that's not like a normal body type. So
no.
Okay. It was standing sideways to me as I was facing it. It was headless. It unnerved me, but I continued to do my side of the haunt, and the show was great, but there was something there with me. If only for but a brief glimpse. A year ago, our haunt suffered a great loss of haunt actor suicide. I don't know if that had anything to do with that, with what I saw, but he shot himself in the head with a shotgun. His scene is still on display at the haunt, along with his costume in our dressing room. Huh.
Wow. Goodness.
He says 5 foot and looked like him. I wonder if that's like a type, like, because then he said saying it was basically looked like someone else, someone that they know committed suicide. So I'm not actually sure if he's saying that this person looked like him or not. It says looked like me, but that might have been a typo. But either way, yeah, so that's kind of unnerving. Which we recently did a ghost hunt in a haunted house. Now, we didn't really get anything. The episode is interesting. It is on our YouTube channel. Haunted Adventures is the name of the series that we do. And we ghost hunted at that haunted house. And it was kind of eerie. Just ghost hunting in a haunted house. Now, we go to haunted houses all the time. If you don't know us from Haunt Talk, where we go and review things. So we go to them all the time. But ghost hunting at one is kind of interesting. Something completely different because you're just kind of exploring around at night. And it's kind of the same thing as working. You're behind the scenes. And I've heard other people, because a lot of these haunts actually are inside of like old buildings. It also kind of adds, if you're a haunted house, like a fake haunted house, to actually be inside of a theoretical haunted building. Yeah. Like Dent Schoolhouse, for example, it's supposed to have history. And there's a ton.
Oh, yeah. Like, I could easily name 10 of them now.
I mean, there's so many. There's so many. I mean, two of the places, technically, we've done haunted adventures. Mansfield has, their haunt. I mean, it's also a giant haunted prison, in this place, but it wasn't just a haunt. There's also a community center and school, and it's by a trainer. There's a whole bunch of stuff. You can watch it. But, I just imagine being a haunt actor in one of these buildings that you would have to see stuff, because, I mean, if you're going by there, and I'm a little more skeptical, but theoretically, if you're thinking ghosts are energy, you would think that all the energy of just tons of people coming through there and being scared, that maybe it would fuel something, if that's how it's going to work. And I'm not saying I believe that it is, but if you're going with that theory, it makes sense.
Yes.
So yeah, it is kind of creepy, and that would definitely unnerve me. But this guy's a trooper. He just stayed in his scene and just kept scaring people. And he's like, well, I just saw a giant headless thing, but that's fine.
Yeah, there's just this giant shadow looming over in the corner.
Yeah, headless shadow. Yeah, 400-pound headless-looking shadow thing. And he's like, yeah, it's whatever. I'll just keep scaring haunters.
Keep on trucking.
Yeah, you keep on keep on trucking. All right, guys, thank you again for watching or tuning in, via podcast for this other episode of Spooky Stories. And again, feel free to leave comments if you're watching on YouTube or send us direct messages. For any of your stories, let us know, or any suggestions you would like that are creepy, related. Because, creepy creatures haunt thing, creeps, creatures, haunts, if it relates to that in some way, which a lot of stuff does.
Yeah. It doesn't have to be supernatural. It can be like, you have a creepy neighbor or stalker or something like that. Or, just anything you think is, creepy. Just...
Because they can be completely anonymous, too, if you don't want people knowing, your actual name and that. Because, most of the stuff we're giving credit to, they're just people that's just, usernames.
Yeah.
If we can even find who even wrote it originally, type of thing. But, just let us know. And also, if you have any suggestions for other type of content, 'cause we already have a few ideas. We plan on discussing, things like legends and stuff like that, and kind of putting that kind of thing together. This is just sort of something we're doing that's a little bit easy to do, just to kind of start down this path of more videos and podcast content, because podcast is completely new. We've been doing YouTube for a while, but we want to start putting out more videos. Yeah. So there is a lot planned for the future, so make sure you are subscribed to our podcast and our YouTube page. And thank you guys very much for watching and for listening.